Now, some US lawmakers want to exempt coffee from President Trump's tariffs to help bring down its cost. People in the US are paying 20% more for coffee compared to last year. That is the largest annual increase since 1997. The US imports nearly all of its coffee. A third of it used to come from Brazil before, of course, Trump slapped a 50% tariff on Brazilian goods. Marcos is CEO of Cecafé, the Brazilian Coffee Exporters Council. He joins me now from São Paulo. Matos, welcome to the show. Coffee producers clearly, as we outlined there, having to live with this 50% tariff for just over a month now. Can you give us a sense of what the state of the industry and what you are seeing and what conversations you are having right now, Matos?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. In fact, we are suffering a lot with a 50% tariff. USA is the biggest coffee consumer in the world. It's important to mention 25.5 million bags. And Brazil accounts for more than 30% of this market. Making Brazil its leader supplier. In August, when it started, the day 60, the tariffs, United States is not the biggest importer for Brazilian coffee. It's the second position. Nowadays, the first position is from Germany. So the tariffs cause a lot of impacts in Brazil, but actually cause the whole world because the prices have been increasing a lot. Take the ICE, the Intercontinental Exchange, the Arabica coffee, in July 31st. Sorry?
Yeah. I was going to ask you, you're giving us the breakdown. Go ahead, Marcos.
Yeah, that's interesting because in New York, the benchmark for the global Arabica coffee C contract, it was 284 cents per bag. 31st July, when they announced the executive order. Nowadays, it's 307 cents per pound. It's almost 35% more. And of course, the consumers suffers a lot as well because we have a lot of characteristics, attributes, and scale those coffee because 76% of US population consumes
Marcos, let me get in there, Marcos, very quickly because we've only got about 90 seconds left on the show. But I just wanted to ask you, what alternatives then have coffee producers been looking for? How are they absorbing all these costs?
Our first priority is to find a way to become coffee exempt on the list. Now, coffee is recognized as an available natural resource. In the executive order in September, it's in Annex 3, but we depends on the bilateral negotiation, a final trade agreement. But there is a field bill that just presented by both parties, and the exempt coffee, all kinds of coffee, bean coffee, green coffees, soluble coffees, roasted coffees, exempt, zero tariffs. But it's not maybe to be approved, but to create a fact, to encourage Trump administration to carefully analyze the exemption from tariffs for Brazilian coffees because the great economic impact on the US companies.
Marcos, I don't know what conversations you're having, but do you have a sense of how many coffee growers are deciding to call it quits, going bust, because this is an incredibly difficult environment?
Actually, we export to 150 countries. We are focused more in Europe, Asia, but it's not what we want because the market, the ICO brands in America, it's come from USA. We prioritize the bilateral negotiation at this moment in the exempt lists. I think the most problem now is the contracts for the short term and the medium term because we are postponing the contracts for the next year in expectations that you can find a way to solve this. 1.2% of the US GDP is related to the coffee sector, the coffee shops, the supermarkets, the brands, the consumers. So it's a lot, over 2.2 million jobs in the United States. So the economic agenda is the common sense. Let's focus on this fact.
And Marcos, you mentioned President Trump. We know, our viewers will know President Trump and President Lula da Silva have had a pretty tense relationship, particularly since the conviction, of course, of the former President Jair Bolsonaro. Do you see a deal on the tariffs on the horizon, or is this life now for producers?
For us, it's very difficult because the prerogative is from the government to make a deal, and we're trying to help in how to open the dialogue. It's so difficult. Because of that, we hope that as an available natural resource, we can be an exemption list without a final agreement. That's the strategy. But as a private sector, we keep trying to open a dialogue because we are both countries, very important for both countries, the dialogue, the agreement.
Yeah, and how hopefully you being listened to specifically when it comes to President Lula da Silva. Do you think he's prepared to enter into dialogue? Because the conversation between both governments hasn't been very gentle, has it?
Yes, we have been informing all the time the economic impacts, the agenda, how to prioritize this agenda, especially for our Vice President, Geraldo Alckmin, that it's on charge with a committee to deal with the tariffs and that situation that we have been living. But as I mentioned, as private sector, we are trying to influence and create a good environment. It's very difficult to predict. Everything here is unpredictable.
That's the world of politics, Marcos. Really appreciate it. Marcos Matos there from São Paulo. Thank you, Marcos.